Chemistry and Captivity, Gasoline and Motor Oil by Logan Bear Walford. Gasoline is a byproduct of the process in which crude oil is refined into usable products. Because of this, gasoline is primarily hydrocarbons with a few additives that vary from company to company. Gasoline is the most common fuel in an internal combustion engine. Oil fields and offshore drilling rigs are the most common ways of obtaining the crude oil used in the refining process. Gasoline is made when crude oil is boiled. The vapors that are produced are a mixture of various hydrocarbons, only some of which can be used in gasoline. In order to separate these vapors, they are put in a tall tower where, thanks to the different hydrocarbons having different condensation points, they are sorted. The hydrocarbons that are able to be used in gasoline are then taken and mixed with set amounts of additives to improve fuel performance. The hydrocarbons that are too large are broken into several smaller hydrocarbons that can be used in fuel. Those that are too small, however, are often combined into larger hydrocarbons to create the set length that is desirable. This diagram shows the process in which crude oil is boiled and how vapors are sorted along with the various condensation points for the products that they can be made into. Gasoline is used in several key features of day-to-day life. It powers our cars, trucks, buses, and it also is the main fuel used in internal combustion motors. These can vary from chainsaws to lawnmowers. Old World War I era airplanes also used gasoline internal combustion engines to achieve flight. The most common chemical reaction when using gasoline is combustion. Combustion occurs when a hydrocarbon reacts with pure oxygen that is often found in the air. This reaction then produces carbon dioxide and water along with heat and light. There are several disadvantages to using gasoline, however. Most notably, when it is burned, carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, is produced. Gasoline comes from crude oil, which is also a non-renewable resource, meaning that eventually we will run out of crude oil if we do not use it in a responsible way. Gasoline, if not mixed right, thanks to the flaws in the company, can also cause damage to your motor. This is known as knocking. Knocking is created when all of the gasoline is not burned after the combustion. This can cause the cylinder to misfire, forcing the entire engine out of timing. This causes serious damage to the motor, which could warp the heads, rendering the entire engine useless. Thankfully, it is a simple problem to fix. Knocking can be solved by using the right octane rating of gasoline. The octane rating of gasoline is determined by the ratio of carbon 18 hydrocarbons to carbon 7 hydrogen 16s. These two hydrogen carbons are the main reactants in a gasoline combustion. C7H16 is a very highly reactive molecule. This gives the necessary force and explosion to gasoline that is used to power the motor. C8H18, however, balances out the C7H16, and the combination of these two produces a stable reaction. As shown by this gas pump, there are many different octane ratings. You should always consult your owner's manual before you decide which gasoline and octane rating you should put in your vehicle. Motor oil is another product of the crude oil refinement. Motor oil, however, is a series of much larger hydrocarbons than gasoline. Motor oil also is a more complex blend of additives. These additives help regulate the motor oil's viscosity and determine the specific heat of the motor oil. These both play important factors in the performance of said oil. Motor oil has four major uses inside an engine. They are to take heat away from high-intensity areas around the cylinders. This cools the engine. They also can clean the engine by taking away metal flakes that are produced when the motor is running. The motor oil also lubricates the oil, reducing the amount of metal flakes that are produced, period. Also, motor oil is able to dampen the shock that is caused when you initially start your motor. These all improve motor life and therefore the longevity of your vehicle. This diagram notes several key points along the path of motor oil as it flows through the motor. These are the cylinders, which the motor cleans, cools, and lubricates, the oil filter, which cleans the oil, and the oil pan, where excess oil is stored. Viscosity is vital to how motor oil performs in a motor. Viscosity is the measure of a liquid's resistance to shearing, or in layman's terms, flowing. Viscosity in motor oil is often displayed as XW-XX. This denotes the ability of the oil to resist change and thickening in cold temperatures, and how it resists thinning in hotter temperatures. If motor oil becomes too thick in cold weather, it will not be able to flow through the engine, which will reduce its performance. If the motor oil thins out too much, it won't be able to lubricate the motor correctly, and it won't be able to resist the torque that is put on it when the motor runs. To achieve these standards, synthetic polymers have now been added to motor oil. These polymers change density and weight of the oil depending on the temperatures used. You should always consult your owner's manual when you determine which type of motor oil to buy, as it will specifically state, if you get the wrong motor oil, you can cause seizing in your motor and warp the heads. This irreversibly damages the motor. This diagram shows how different weights of oil flow at different temperatures and what oil should be used at what temperature. The age of motor oil is also an important factor in determining the effectiveness of oil. New motor oil is a light and golden color. However, as motor oil travels through the engine, it collects debris and is contaminated. It is then filtered through the oil filter. If the oil filter is performing to standard, the oil will come out of the other side golden and ready to perform again. If the filter is old and failing, however, motor oil remains a dark black contaminated state. This oil damages your motor by causing increased wear and tear on the motor. It is always important to make sure that you are constantly changing your motor oil. You should always consult your owner's manual for times and dates on how often you should change this oil and which oil filters you use, as this is also an important factor in determining the performance of the oil. After you change your motor oil, used oil is often in excess. There are several uses for this oil. The main environmentally conscious use is to return this motor oil to a used oil collection. These cans can also often be found outside of automotive repair stores. Sometimes the stores will charge a small collection fee. Often, however, it is free, as the used motor oil is then refined into a thicker industrial-grade lubricant. In the past, motor oil has also been poured onto dirt roads. However, environmentally conscious people have decided that this is not an acceptable way to dispose of motor oil while repairing dirt roads at the same time. Other industrial people have decided that you can use motor oil to heat spaces. This DIY garage heater, for example, uses a drip of used motor oil in order to fan the flames. However, because of the synthetic additives to motor oil, it is very toxic to burn. And as such, you should be very careful whenever you do burn used motor oil, as it often contains products like steel, tin, and lead. You should always try and dispose of used motor oil in a safe, environmentally conscious way. Motor oil and gasoline play an important role in day-to-day lives. I hope that you have learned something new about these two vital liquids to the American way of life.